What's up, guys?
Welcome back, brothers.
Welcome back to another episode of
Whiskey and
Water.
Okay, hear me out, guys. Am I crazy for wanting to get that tatted on me? I think me and Olivia said, like, when we were first doing this, I was like, dude, I'm going to get whiskey and you're going to get water. And she was like, yeah, maybe like in 10 years. And I was like, I'm going to get it tomorrow.
This is the first time I'm hearing of this. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you said you would get it as a lip tap. Wait, as a lip tap. I forgot how to talk just then. Honestly, I might be down to get water here. Okay, we should like hit a goal. Once we get like a certain amount of listeners or a certain amount of followers, we should get it.
See, I think I'm probably just going to do it anyway.
No, we will use it as an enticing factor to get our followers to
guys, share this with as many people as you can, and I will get fucking whiskey tatted on me somewhere.
If this blows up, I will get whiskey and water tatted on my ass. No cap.
No cap. Guys, please hold her to that.
Okay. Anyways, hi guys. Happy Monday. We missed you. How are you? Excited to hang.
Bro, have you well, we've seen this meme where it's like
you're talking so loud. You're like screaming into the mic. Chill out.
Don't do that.
She's like she's like deep throating the mic. Can you not? Wow. Honestly, you sound so much better. We should have got that mic for you a long time ago.
Yep. Here we are. Regardless. What were we saying?
What were we saying?
I literally forgot.
You were like, have you guys seen that thing?
Oh, that meme where it's like what it feels like to listen to a podcast and it's like someone like laughing but they're alone. I was like, that's like us talking to our audience.
Yeah.
Like, hi guys, literally. How are you? Like, as if we're gonna get a fucking response.
We're so excited to hang out with you. Yeah.
We need like you know, like but in like Friends and like old shows, how they have like the laughter, like you know, automated in. Like that's what we need.
I don't know. I feel like that's really creepy. But anyways, hi guys. While we're talking about you, I would just like to say, yes, many of you did come out of the woods when we asked our silent listeners to come out. However, I still have a bone to pick with those of you who have not come out because I'm going to say it again. Y'all, these numbers are too high. We see them. We're happy about them. We're not happy that y'all aren't interacting with us and showing us who you are so we can love you. Let us love you.
No, but shout out because there have been a ton of people who have reached out and they're like, I felt so attacked by this week's intro. I'm like, I'm sorry, but also I love you. Thank you.
Also, it was necessary. They're like, raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by Liv and Jess.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Well, anyways, this is just, your weekly reminder to not be scared of us. Send us a DM.
Suck you home.
Yeah, just let us do our thing. Okay. Send us a DM with like an emoji. That's all you have to do. Don't write a paragraph. Just send an emoji and we will follow you back. Anywho, let's get into today's episode. We have on Joshua. I cannot talk.
Joshua
Coombes. I originally found him on TikTok. I came across one of his viral videos of him cutting a homeless person's hair, and it really resonated with me. I checked out his page. He has a project called Do Something for Nothing, and we have such a really beautiful, just really heartwarming, beautiful conversation just about what it is to be human and, taking the stigma away from those who are experiencing homelessness. And that's kind of how he phrases it, instead of saying, a homeless person, someone who is experiencing homelessness, and he sees it as a transitional period of their lives, because that's really what it is. And this is a topic that Jess and I have been passionate about for years now, and honestly have wanted to be more proactive in, and sadly have not. But it is something that has been on our list. Once we do start doing philanthropy events, especially for Whiskey and Water, it is on our goals to do some community events, get involved with our community in Miami, and kind of just give back in that way. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I feel like a couple years ago, we were more involved. We did like a couple projects here and there, but definitely something that we'd like to pick back up. And it is kind of difficult, especially because COVID hit and everything. But definitely something that we're looking to do more of. But before we get into that, brother, you've got an app of the week for me?
Ooh, yes. Let's get into our little segments. App of the motherfucking week. Okay, I have not tried this, but like everything these days, I found it on TikTok, and it is called Be My Eyes. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't. I have no idea what you're saying.
Be Be My Eyes. Like BE my eyes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
so
I hear you.
you said I have no idea what you're saying.
But I don't.
I thought you didn't understand like what I actually literally said.
No, I can hear you loud and clear. I just have no idea what it means.
Okay, so basically, it is an app for people who want to lend their eyes out to those who are visually impaired or blind. And basically, you do. I haven't tried it out. I downloaded it, but I haven't actually like created an account or anything. But I found this TikTok of this guy, and it's pretty much a FaceTime call. And he answers, and the person in this TikTok, the guy was counting money, and he said, "Yeah, is there 400 there?" And he said, "Yep, there's 400." And he's like, "Okay, thank you, bye." It's like, and then they hang up. It's like a quick FaceTime call. If someone
so
needs
cool.
to see like what color the shirt is that they want to wear, or help counting money, how sweet is that?
Oh my God, I have goosebumps. That's so cute.
I know. So I downloaded the app, and I want to get on it and be someone's eyes. I think that is so just clever, and what a great like idea to just help people out.
No, I love that. I definitely thought it was going to be something stupid at first, but you really pulled through, brother. That's beautiful.
Of course you did. So yeah, if you guys want to be someone's eyes, download the app. I think it's so cute. And the guy was so excited. He like hangs up and he goes, "Oh, I just got my first Be My Eyes." And they're like, "Oh," it was really cute.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Was that the blind guy or the other guy?
The other guy who answered the call, like he was so excited to like,
okay. That's so cute.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, moving right on to Amazon must-haves.
Must-haves.
So we do like to try all of the must-haves out before like telling you guys something, because it could be shitty or whatever it may be. So I know I've been talking a lot about organizers. Sorry, I was like super close to the mic. But that's because I'm trying to be an adult. I'm trying to be a grown-up ass bitch and get my shit organized, because as y'all know, I am a messy ass hoe. Anyway, so I got an under the sink organizer for like your sponges and your rags and your cleaning products, because like I don't know, I hate going under my sink and like not being able to like see everything correctly, or like sponges are on the ground.
It's a scary dark place.
Yeah, and I just feel like it gets kind of gross. So anyways, I got this organizer. So that's really all I have to share with you guys. So
I'm so
organized. The other things that I bought off of Amazon this week is I bought my boyfriend like 20 related things, because he got into med school and shit. So those are the only other things I can talk about. So.
Okay, also I realized in the last episode, let's stop calling him your boyfriend and let's start calling him by his name, shall we? Well, you kind of have to introduce him to our audience.
Should we though? Like,
yeah. Do you want to?
I
just feel like you always say my boyfriend, and I'm like,
I know.
Say his name.
So it's hard though, because I don't really.
You don't have to. Sorry, I'm like putting you on the spot. Whatever, it's fine.
No,
it's fine.
I don't mind. It's also just that like I feel weird though, because like I don't even post with him right now because he doesn't live here right now. So it's like,
hey, whatever. I'm just trying to give the brothers some tea. Okay.
His name is Juan.
Okay.
Juancho.
All right. That's all we're giving you. Anyways, on to the next. Guys, we want to take a moment and thank our sponsors for this week's episode. First,
money.
You love to see it. So first, we are getting into Celsius, which if you guys know, you know. Cheers, brother. Cheers.
I'm so sorry for that ASMR, guys. I apologize.
Yeah, no one asked for that. Don't know why we did it. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
So yeah, if you've been following us, you know that we love Celsius. Personally, I take pride in putting people on. I put you on. I put Tyler on, my sister on, Tyler's cousin Chase on, and just me alone. Like I drink water and I drink tea occasionally and like orange juice and coffee. I do not drink any other drinks. Like I don't like what's it called?
Like fizzy drinks and shit like that.
I like fizzy drinks. I don't like sweet drinks, energy drinks. I don't fuck with it. Guys, I love Celsius. Like this is my shit.
She actually, we met up for content a couple months ago, and we were shooting, and she was like, dude, what? I had another drink with me. I think I had like a coffee, and she was like, dude, you haven't tried Celsius yet? And I was like, nah, like, I don't think I would like it, blah, 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 and whatever. She gave me one. And from that moment on, brother, I DM'd them immediately, and I was like, yo, what's good?
You're like,
this shit.
Give me it.
Yeah,
we love it.
Drink one. Like, I kind of have to pace myself because I'm like, I drink one every day, but I mean, it's all healthy. Like we're gonna tell you guys a little bit about it now, but it's completely healthy energy. It accelerates metabolism and burns body fat. It's essentially kind of like it's centered around like living a healthy lifestyle, like a fit lifestyle. So they have a lot of like, fitness, and that's kind of like what they're centered around, but you can tell them a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and the reason why I have never messed with energy drinks in general is because they taste like battery acid. Two, they feel like battery acid. You know that they're just horrible, and you might get a heart attack from them. But it's no high fructose corn syrup, no preservatives, no artificial colors or flavors. So honestly, that's like why I feel so okay drinking this. I know it's not battery acid. It's a healthy energy drink. It's clean energy. You don't feel a crash. And Peach Vibe, which is a limited flavor, is my favorite flavor.
My fave too.
So check it out.
The peach, I'm sorry, not the peach, the pear Fuji apple is also super fire. It has what they say is it has 7 essential vitamins, but they have B6, B12, biotin, riboflavin, vitamin C. We love this shit, guys. And I think it's part of the reason why I'm still so snatched right now. Because guys, I have not been on my best behavior, one could say. I'm definitely eating like shit, and I haven't been working out as much because I fucked up my back. I forgot about that. I did fuck up my back, and I had to take off a little bit of time working out. But I still look better than ever, and I think it's because Celsius.
So shout out Celsius. Check them out. We will leave anyways, we will leave a link in the description if you guys want to check them out. And even before they don't waste that precious gold. Liquid gold. But even before they were a sponsor, we would drink a can before our episodes. So that just goes to show we are true lovers of the brand. Okay. Anyways, next,
moving on to our second sponsor,
Mind Tan Body
Skin.
Mind Tan Body Skin. I wanted to say sweat.
3 seizures this episode.
We are back at it with Mind Tan, and we told you guys a little bit about them last episode, and we're here to tell you more. It's where cosmetics and skincare meet tanning, and they believe tanning begins with you. They believe that your tan should be just as unique as you are. One shade does not fit all, and tanning is so much more than light, medium, and dark. With Mind Tan, you can customize your bronze glow based on your skin type, tone, and desired skin finish.
Oh! Killed it. Ooh. We love Mind Tan. That is how we keep this healthy glow. Actually, I went to the beach the other day, and I did not wear my sunscreen, and you guys should see my back right now. It is peeling. I look like I have leprosy, and you know what? I fucked up. My first mistake was not just staying in and using Mind Tan.
There you go.
That is where I fucked up.
There you go. It is clean beauty. It is vegan, cruelty-free, PETA approved, clean skin-loving ingredients, 100% natural, DHA, sustainably sourced, salon quality formula, and it is born in Australia, and we love our Australian babes. So we have a discount. We have a discount code for you guys, Whiskey and Water. Use that for 25% off at checkout.
We're hooking it up, brothers.
All right, guys, we are going to hop into the episode. If you guys are loving this so far, please post a screenshot on your story. Show us some love. If you're not already subscribed, do that and enjoy this week's episode.
Enjoy, brothers. Love ya.
Second time's a charm. Joshua, thank you so much for joining us. We are so thrilled to have you on.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm happy to be here and talk to you today.
Yes, we're super excited to have this conversation. Like I mentioned over the phone, I actually found you on TikTok. I came across one of your TikToks. It kind of went viral. I think now it's up to like 600,000 views, the one that I had come across. And then I ended up kind of just like looking at your profile, and, you know, like we talked about in our call, TikTok is such a good way to expose yourself to new people and new creators. And you came up on my For You page, and I checked you out, and I was like, man, this is awesome. Like what his project, what he's doing, it's dope. So we're just so excited to have you on. And I guess to start this, tell the people a little bit about yourself and just what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, so actually, it's funny because as I mentioned to you on the phone, also like TikTok was something that I started posting these videos on there more recently, which were when I go out to go back to, I guess, how this started for me. I give haircuts to people who are living on the street and people who are experiencing homelessness or hardship in some way. And that started here in London, where I am right now. But I suppose I started doing that when I was still working at a salon about 5 years ago. I first started going out with my backpack and cutting hair for people, and it quickly became much more than just something I do on a day off. It was um, something that brought me connections that I wasn't experiencing in my life, and was a way to go and hang out with people who I really wanted to hear their story and find out a bit more about who they were. A lot of homelessness and the way it was reported for me at the time, it just seemed that I wasn't that connected to it as an issue. When you look at really thousands of people living on the streets in each city, and London's much the same. I was walking past people on the way back from work to home, and I'd always see people who are literally sleeping on the street and sleeping rough. So I started cutting hair. There was one day, one moment with this man who I spoke to, and it turned into a haircut because I had my things with me. I was on the way to cut a client's hair outside of work, and I suppose it was like I guess an aha thing for me because I was connected to this person. I listened to their story, and I started doing it more and more, and it grew slowly into a hashtag which I created called "Do Something for Nothing." And that wasn't a quick transition. It was actually quite a slow one, which was I started going out and cutting hair and meeting people more often. And it was a few months into this that I realized that some of the stories I was hearing and some of the people I was meeting, it was dissolving all these stigmas that surround homelessness as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you've got people from all walks of life, and a lot of people are empathetic towards this. I know that, but I think the really big ones, drugs and alcohol and mental health issues and the reasons why people might end up where they are. I was listening to people's stories who it made me feel like I wanted to try and tell those in some way and bring other people into the fold. So I came up with this hashtag, "Do Something for Nothing," and I made the decision to start posting these people's stories online. I did like Facebook or Instagram, and a haircut's a really visual way to show, I suppose, this before and after. Take a photo before the haircut and then afterwards, and it's a nice way to, I guess, put a signpost up which drew people in because sometimes it's quite a transformation. But the truth is, from the beginning, it was all about someone's story, and I'd write a caption with that which said, "Hey, this is someone, I met them, and this is kind of what they're about and what we spoke about that day," and it started to grow. So yeah, so really, I mean, in a nutshell, from those haircuts to then Do Something for Nothing, I suppose it became like something that people started moving towards in their own way and using their own skills and time and things that they could bring towards this to try and help. And and it grew, which was I guess the trajectory for me that took me from my job where I was working in a salon. I quit my job 6 months after I started doing this, and that was about 4 years ago. And I've traveled all over the world since, and keep trying to advocate for people who are in a difficult situation and tell stories through different mediums now.
Love that. Love that. Okay, so you did start as a hairstylist. You were in a
Yeah.
salon for how long? You said 5 years?
Yeah, about 5 years, maybe 4 or 5
Okay.
years. I used to play music and I was in a band when I was younger. Then mid-20s, I kind of stopped all of that, and I was looking for something to do. I never went to. I didn't have any grades or school. I did nothing in school. I didn't go to college or university. So I was like, I can play guitar. Maybe cutting hair seems like something I could do. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really for this like great love or passion in the industry. To be really honest with you, it was actually just like I need to do
An
something with my
income.
earn some money, and I walked into a salon and asked for a job, and trained from the ground up at about 25. Yeah.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Go ahead, Jess.
No, I was just going to say that I love that, and I think we've seen a few different people doing this type of, work. And I think it's amazing how it's kind of showing that what a haircut can do for someone and how it can transform it. But what I love about like what you focus on is not just like helping these people, but also just, opening up the dialogue and, encouraging the conversation and understanding that these people, are humans and you're sharing their actual stories. It's not just like now someone has a haircut and they're worthy of, being put back into society. However, like, these people are real people, and I love that that's, part of the work that you do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a really important lesson I learned straight away. Is I think I was looking at the political conversation of this, focused on all these economic factors of why someone might end up the street. And we've all heard that saying of like, oh, you're only a paycheck away. And for people who are working class. But, sometimes that's true, but I still don't think that doesn't really scratch the surface. This is, for me, the people I was meeting way back when I learned these lessons of, God, just things that we can all relate to as humans. Like, when something bad happens in our life, like we need help from other people. We need to share
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, or maybe it's grief, or maybe it's just painful things that are, landmines of trauma that are laid out in people's life, sometimes from a very early age. And, when you step on one of those in life and it explodes, it's like you need other people to help you out. And a lot of the time, whatever the social or economic reasons for someone ending up living on the street, there's usually quite a relatable reason, which is not having a support network around you, not having other people to rely on, to talk to be able to provide like therapeutic care that's needed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the way we look at homelessness, I realized quickly, it was quite linear. As far as like, here's the problem, here's the solution. Oh, well, look, there's help. And then you sometimes see that people might even be able to access help, but they're not getting there. So that must mean that they don't care, and they're
Right.
willful in this kind of like choice
Mm.
making. I don't want help. I'm not accepting of your help. But that doesn't for a minute address the psychological aspects of how far away somebody might be from accepting love, like actually accepting love to be able to accept help. Like that's the
Mm.
big. I mean, obviously, I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole now, but my point being that you're right. You're absolutely right. It's very complex.
Yeah, extremely. And, it goes to show, I mean, just think about how complex humans are. Just, people who do have jobs and have families and relationships and, a functioning member in society per se, right?
Mhm.
We are such complex beings with so many different levels of emotions and relationships and things that affect our mental health. I mean, it's like all the little things that we really don't even realize because we're so, one could say privilege, but we're so used to things. And when you're used to something, you're less aware of, you know, someone else who may lack those little things. It just,
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense, if you understand what I'm trying to say, but I think there's just so much that goes into accepting help and getting a job and being a functioning member of society that maybe someone who hasn't experienced homelessness wouldn't really even think about until you're put in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
love what you said, that it's definitely not linear. Like there's just so many things that a person who hasn't experienced it wouldn't realize.
Exactly. And I think that's a really great way of looking at it. Basically, when you take away you know, the aspect of like whether someone has a roof over their head or not, you've got everyone's got a really nuanced life with all kinds of different struggles and all kinds of different
Exactly.
worries and things that we all have to be aware of each other and try and try and show up when we can. But of course, when you look at the sharp end of something like homelessness, what happens is there is quite a visible image that emerges that can sometimes be quite difficult to understand and quite difficult to approach. And there's a lot of ways that like pain and shame and all these kinds of different emotions and
Trauma.
and trauma that they can manifest themselves in ways that are, it can be quite ugly sometimes. And I don't mean that to offend anyone. I mean it in the same way as like, if you've got someone who's completely out of their head and barely recognizable to the person they once were, and they're laying on the pavement, sitting, kind of like in their own piss. Like, it's hard to know. Like, you're walking along, you're on the way to work, you don't know what to do, and it's okay. It's okay to recognize that. Like, sometimes it's the image that comes with some of the ways these things kind of play themselves out. It's like, it's not the normal interaction we'd have each day. It's the point I'm making. It's not like your
Right.
normal. How are you? How are you? I'm
Yeah.
fine. Cool. Let's move on. Like, here's the next person I'll try and smile at. So, yeah. Look, my the way I always approach this, and I have from the start, is never to point the finger, never to call anyone out. It's just to say that there for me, the best way that I can use my energy and my power as a human is to go out and tell stories. And I still think I really think it's the most influential way you can still try and feed these messages, drip feed them into someone's life without coming at someone telling someone they should change their mind about something. Because like we all know that's not like people stop listening. People, hold their hands over their ears and they're like, and
You have no idea.
yeah, and I don't profess to
Yeah.
know. I'm no expert. I'm just a human being going out to talk to another human. And the haircut is this beautiful way of like wrapping someone in a gown for 45 minutes and sit down on the curb with them. And the cool thing is, when I go out in the street and do this, it's in their environment. They're not coming to pick up a service from somewhere else. There's plenty of amazing places that provide all kinds of cosmetic well-being services. There's amazing people doing beautiful things with their time, and I'm trying to use what I know how to do. Or before lockdown, used to do a lot more, but
Yeah.
that's kind of. But just that is, I think, an important part of this. Is I go on the street to people and I say like, "Hey, what's up? This is your zone. This is your place," and it's quite nice because I think sometimes I'm not even looking at people like face to face. I'll gown them up and I'll be working on the hair from the back for half the haircut on the sides, and then I've been thinking about that more often. I think now I've had time to reflect, and I think it's nice sometimes not always talking to someone face to face, and eye contact can be intimidating, and
Yeah, totally.
and I think I've realized there's something nice in the haircut that's part of that, where they're looking out onto the street they'd usually be looking on, and maybe just a bit more of a chance to have someone listen to them or something.
Yeah, almost like an imaginary friend, because they're able to talk and feel like they're not being judged, and they can just freely have a conversation without someone, feeling like they're scared of someone judging them and like looking at their face. And yeah.
It takes a minute, doesn't it, to build up those kind of confidence skills. I don't know about you guys, but at school I was really terrible with like eye contact. I was really bad. Like people were looking at me, it wasn't something that came really naturally to me.
Right.
And then I sort of wrapped myself in this persona of like bravado and actually being really cheeky and really playful and kind of more like the other way, like this kind of like sphere of confidence that was like what took me from like being sort of 14. Before that, it was like different, and then it was like propelled me into like whatever, and then that all dies eventually. But my point is, I'm not kind of like, I really relate to that. Like I really relate to when you've got a barrel full of problems. Sometimes someone sit and go like, all right, tell me about you. It's like that in itself is intimidating sometimes. So
Absolutely. For you to even like pick up on that, like that is a nuance that I think is what makes your project and, your mission really successful. Like to even pick up on that is something that I think a lot of people wouldn't understand. I think there's definitely this aspect of I don't know, this confidence and coming off of maybe I find it hard to, obviously as humans, it's hard for us to relate to those who are different than us. And for me, trying to speak to someone so different in such a different situation, to be completely transparent and honest, I really wouldn't know how to go about that conversation. Obviously, I would try my best to be to appear as least judgmental as possible and kind and show empathy, but it is hard. So I think it's a really brave thing for you to be able to go there and kind of cater to what makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah, and I think I think it's so good because we're getting on some really interesting stuff already, and I feel that it's also important to recognize that with that sometimes half the problem is feeling like you need to solve someone's problems, and that's like that in itself I realized quickly is like I'm nobody's hero, and I don't want to be, and I'm not going to say I know anyone's answers. I'm like, my benchmark is actually quite low, to be honest, of what constitutes as a good day for myself and a good day for me in this conversation, going out on the street with other people, and cutting hair like with people on the street. And it's actually it's very simple. It's just like did we have a chat? Did we have a conversation where I listened and I tried to remain present with them in this moment? And not be thinking, oh, I should be somewhere else, or why am I giving my time in this way, or whatever. It's just like trying to just be present with the person I'm with, and realizing that sometimes that's going to manifest into like a really nice relationship. And I've met people whose hair I've cut on the street who've become dear friends and who I'm still in touch with to this day. And some people it was just that moment and that just existed then and it's all it was. And maybe then that's maybe it wasn't always the easiest interaction. Sometimes people are in a difficult way, and I think, as I said, like I've lowered my benchmark to this what is like for me important, and it's just you shouldn't go out there thinking you're going to make someone's day ever. I think you should just
Be
go
a
out
hero.
doing what you can do. It's like anything in life. Like, what can you work on as you? I go out and go, okay, what can I do today? I can try and listen. I can try and be available. I'm going to have a bad day sometimes too, but when I can, I'll try and be the best version of me. But I'm not hoping for gratitude. I'm not hoping for some profound thing. I'm just like, have a conversation, see where it goes.
And I'm actually really curious just about like the story and kind of how what the kind of like the process is for you. Like,
Mhm.
and I think when I've seen these types of videos in the past, I've always been very curious just because I think a lot of people are very intimidated oftentimes by homeless people. And I'm sure at this point you're a little bit more comfortable and you can read people a little bit better. But I'm always just very curious, like when you do approach someone and offer to give them a haircut, like how does that go about? Like how do you start, like how do you ask them your story or see if they're even comfortable sharing that with you?
Yeah, how do you break the ice?
Yes. So really, I always, whenever I'm in any city, I'll go out with my backpack, and sometimes I try and get introductions through people on the ground if I know somebody in that city and they might already be working with people. But most of the time, like 90% of the time, I'll just go out with my backpack and I'll wander the streets. And when it is about an energy thing, you're right. With experience, I've read when people want to be approached and when people don't, and you can sort of tell, but the truth is there's no real process as far as like trying to find out someone's story, because I used to obsess about that more. Like I wanted to know like what happened, like why did you become like how did this happen to you? And I realized that quest sometimes is it's hard to squeeze into such a small, because even if I might spend a day with someone, sometimes it's still hard to squeeze into such a small amount of time.
Yeah, it's a long. They're like, you don't got time for my story.
Yeah, like we got to go back and see each other more than once to be able to like build the trust required to let someone in. But my process
Absolutely.
is actually quite relaxed. Like to try and walk you through it in more detail. It is more just, can I sit down next to you? Can I, like I'll just say that, and sometimes people want you to or not. And if someone's like, yeah, sure, if they're sitting down or they're stood there, that's already an entry point where they're not telling you to like fuck off and go away. So it's okay to say like, all right, I'm going to sit down or stand next to you for a while, and then I'll just ask them how their day's going, and then after a period of time, if they want a haircut. But then usually when I'm cutting hair is when I'll probably talk more in depth with someone, and I think there's some trust with the touch that comes with like and the intimacy that comes with a haircut too. But yeah, I used to, I'm not going to lie, I used to be more obsessed about like, okay, what's someone's story? Like, let me plan this out in more of a like journalistic way of like at point A to point B, like, well, how did they end up where they are now? But I realize sometimes now I come away from these moments and I don't really know anything about someone, but I might know what their favorite film is or what music they're into. And I think that's as important,
Mm-hmm.
because
Absolutely, because maybe they want to talk about that. Maybe they don't want to
Yeah,
talk
maybe they don't
about.
feel like divulging, how they've gotten to this, probably
Yeah,
very low point in their lives. And I think
yeah,
it's amazing that you were even able to recognize that in yourself and be like, you're not entitled to that information, even if you are, helping this person out, because that's not what this experience is about. It's not about you, it's about them.
exactly, and that's it. Put succinctly, you're right. That's just like, it's not about me, this experience. It's about the person I'm with, and it's not. It's like, it's not okay for me to ask those questions. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not, unless I'm willing to be around to listen to it beyond that moment too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do oftentimes find out a lot about people's story, and oftentimes I don't have to. There's no probing like involved in like, how can I get that now? Because a lot of times people are ready to chat, but when
Yeah.
they're not. So I think it's like that is, I think it's kind of like a lesson for life anyway, isn't it? You go out there with your best intentions and you just let things flow, and
Mm-hmm.
you got to just let the day go how it goes. And as I said, sometimes that's a short moment with someone, but there've been people I've met who I've had some very profound experiences with, people I've spent days with, and by that I mean kind of I've met them at the beginning of the day and I've spent all day together, and then I've met them the next day and hung out with them, and there's been some almost very nomadic experiences I've had where I've kind of got invited in people's kind of lives for a while, and I suppose you've got to really give yourself up to those experiences because it's not easy sometimes. You got to really just remind yourself that like this is exactly where you're supposed to be, and it's taken me to some interesting places with people. What's been getting asked for like a cigarette outside a train station has led me to some adventure with someone in their life of where they kind of what they do, and that in itself has been a learning experience too. There was nothing that I did in my life before this where I would spend that much time with a complete stranger and allow myself to like roll with that and flow with it for whatever reason, and I think that has been a learning like experience for me personally to recognize that that's not always easy and it's not always possible, and we've all got shit to do, but there is these very strong connections that you can make with people who it's hard to trust sometimes, but I've had some amazing experiences where people have become friends from like nothing, and that's very like I don't know, that's a great feeling. That's a really beautiful
Yeah,
feeling.
absolutely. Because you're connecting solely off of the fact that you're both human. There's something so humbling, I think, about what you
Mhm.
experience, and that's the
Yes.
reason I think people travel so much, is to experience different cultures and the way people who are so different from them live their lives. So you could view this in the same aspect of just experiencing a day with someone who is very different from you and whose day-to-day life looks very different from yours, and there's so much to learn from that.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
I also think that it's like it's stripped of like a lot of ego. It's stripped of judgment. Like you're really just there like connecting on someone on the most like, human level. And I mean, there's just something not only like beautiful about that, but also like cathartic. It's refreshing. And although I'm sure there's a lot of experiences that are almost very heavy,
Yeah.
um, it's still like, you know,
Mhm.
what you get from that, like the human experience is just, I'm sure, so rewarding.
Yeah, exactly, and it's what we try and all do on a day-to-day basis. Like that's all these, it's a really nice way to summarize this in a nutshell. Like I'm not doing anything different than anybody else tries to do when they go away and they want to meet new people in a new country, or have like any kind of more than just a surface level experience where you want to go, hey, tell me about you, whatever walk of life that's in, like whatever scenario you're in. You just want to go, I know I can learn something from you, and it's it's okay to recognize that sometimes you wouldn't look to say people who are in a hell of a lot of hardship and a hell of a lot of pain, and they certainly don't want to fetishize like you should go and grab all the energy you need from these people and then just fuck off back home. But that's not what it is. It's like we can learn from one another, and I don't believe in shutting the door on people. I believe in asking questions and listening to them. And I think that to shut the door on people, no matter how much you think it's their own fault, it's just the point that you stop learning about life and the world, and it seems illogical to me, And no matter how dark it looks over there, like I'd prefer to go and try and check it out and see what comes of it, because I feel like that's a real experience. That's what I feel like is the point of, personally anyway, how I want to live, because yeah, and also just the small moments do matter too as well. I think people sometimes, like, don't get me wrong, someone could listen to this podcast and they could be like, "Oh, this is great, man! Like, well done. This is all like very airy fairy." Like, I believe in the political conversation too. Like, I need people knocking on the door of like the government to be like, "This is." Because the whole thing's messed up. Like when you look at cities, whether it's in America or Europe, like there is not enough being done or enough will to do anything about this. And people will tell you all day long, anyone working in the sector, how they've been for years, decades, people have been working in the homeless sector. And they must be so fatigued, because we can sort this shit out. People always ask what the problem is. I mean, sorry, it's like there's not enough will. There's not enough will. And that's what it comes down to, because even coronavirus and the pandemic has shown us that I don't know what exactly it's been like individually in each city in America. I've heard from friends I know in some cities, but here in London, from my standpoint, what happened was a lot of people got put in hotel rooms during the pandemic, and because they could incubate this virus, they were suddenly deemed important enough to be like, quick, we need to get you in this room to self-isolate. So lots of hotel rooms were bought out, and it showed you, okay, of course these hotels weren't being used at the time. Of course, their business completely came to a halt. So there was this very obvious empty hotels. Makes sense. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows you how quickly, when shit hits the fan, there's will to just say like, we can sort this problem, like, and we're going to talk to you about it. And we had the mayor of London saying, look, we've housed all these people, and yeah, it's just there just needs to be more will to help. So look, there is advocacy and like people needing to be like having like people are really doing amazing things to try and have that conversation, and I do too. But I think also people get hung up on, you don't have to know the full solution to go out and use your time in a positive way. I concentrate on the really small moments, and they do matter, and that's not just about people experiencing homelessness. That's like anyone in your life, and it could be a friend who wants to, like, who hasn't heard from you in a while. It could be, I don't know, here in London again, there's bus drivers who work these insanely long shifts, and everyone's just got this beep card where you just beep your card at someone, and you don't even have to look at them in the eyes. You don't even have to smile or look at them anymore. So you just walk on and beep. And there's this driver there, and it's like saying hello to that person does mean something. Saying how are you?
Absolutely.
It's real.
It does.
Yeah.
It's so real
I
because
mean,
life is all those little moments, and it's truly
exactly.
like, just thinking a conversation that you had with one person on the street. I mean, you could leave that conversation thinking like, oh, okay, I didn't
Mhm.
get their story out of them, or, it was a very brief moment, but they could be thinking about that conversation for the next few weeks, and that could be the one thing that's giving them hope or making them look forward to the next day. You never know how those little moments are affecting people. And like you said, in our cars beeping at people. I mean, we're in Miami. Road rage is bad here. As soon as people get behind the wheel, I mean, they are angry and they want to curse you out. So
No.
it's really, it's those little moments of smiling instead of flicking someone off or just saying hi, or those little
Yeah.
moments, they add up and they really make a difference. You don't know what people are going through at home.
Yeah, I think also it has to happen. It has to start because I try and tell, like, I try and talk about the things that I do, and follow lots of other people who give me kind of motivation each day through these small moments and stuff. And I think as long as also I give talks a lot in schools, and I'm looking forward to doing that again in a few months when things start up again, or in a couple of months.
Awesome.
I just think it's important to also bring this stuff into, I don't know, into the hearts and minds of like young people and curriculum more too as well. I think it's hard because we grow up. I see this moment. Here's what happens sometimes. I'll be given a haircut and I'll be on the street, and young children will never be anything but curious when they walk past. There's never like a scary moment for a young child. They're like, what's going on? I want to go up and talk and like see what's
Right.
happening. No matter whether it's like some old dude or like whoever it is, it doesn't matter how intimidating like it could look to somebody else. They'll just be like inquisitive and curious. And there's usually two types of parents, and one will kind of like give them something, or like go and say hi, or come and say hi together. And there'll be another type of parent who will kind of pull their child away and be like, no, 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 that's not for you over there. That
Right.
inquisitive, and it's quite a pivotal moment. I think I think it's important that we kind of show people to. I'm not saying go down. I'm not saying don't use your instincts. I had to use my instincts. Go down a dark alley in the middle of the night.
Right.
Down there. I'm not promoting anyone even live a similar life to like me, in the sense of like I go and spend all my time with a lot of people who are in a difficult kind of position, and I do have to have my wits about me sometimes, because again, this is not about homelessness. It's just about me. I've ended up on the wrong side of town before in cities I don't know that well, because I've let my like inquisitive nature sort of get the better of me, and I've had to remember like, oh shit, it's getting dark now. Like I don't know where I am. But so I'm not saying don't follow your instincts. I'm not saying don't have your wits about you. People confuse these two things a lot, I think. And I'm like, I know how to be strong and to be able to like know when to like get the fuck out somewhere. But I also don't think that has to in any way blur this side of you that can be open and vulnerable and empathetic towards any other
And
other person.
curious.
yeah, and curious, remaining curious. Yeah, like I'm glad. I don't know about you guys, but I feel very thankful that. And again, this is such a huge thing, and I realized it growing up more than anything now. Getting older, that even though I didn't have all that much growing up, like my mum was always open, and I know that she always provided something for me that kept me in this kind of open, inquisitive, curious nature to the world. And I think that I'm really thankful for, if
Mm,
nothing else. I mean, plenty of things I'm thankful for, but that's important, and I'm glad.
absolutely.
And I love really really love what you said earlier about how like and this is I'm kind of backtracking here, but you had mentioned like you're doing what you can with what you've been given, which is you realize how you can help is by providing those haircuts and kind of opening the dialogue via social media. And I think that if anyone were to want to get involved, I mean, I think that it's what's important is looking around you and seeing what you can offer yourself. I think a lot of people, and I think we saw this a lot, particularly with the Black Lives Matter movement, we saw people getting involved in the ways that they knew how. So, I mean, if you're an artist, it's like creating art that opens up the dialogue, or, if you're good at protesting, and if you're good at if you can even just be like a spokesperson or be a body, or like
You're
you
a
said, like
writer or have a
yeah,
podcast.
Yeah,
whatever, exactly,
sure.
whatever it might be. I think it's just important that you utilize those things and try not to like you don't have to go out and spread yourself thin, and because I mean I feel like that's the way that we don't. It has to be longevity. It has to be consistency, and just doing things in the way that how to.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the biggest message for anything. Look, what I do is called do something for nothing. What someone else does is called something else. I think we're all working to the same thing here, which is just like, yeah, you're right. Recognizing that I feel the biggest epiphany that I've had, and it's beautiful when you get these in life. So I'm like, oh, I'm the most important part of this equation. And by that, I do not mean like attached to my ego. I mean that like you use what you have to go out and try and, I used to like my life started when I started listening to the Clash, right? And I was like 16 or 17, and my auntie gave me a record collection of all these old punk records, and it was like blew my mind, and my life changed. And there's always something Joe Strummer says, who's the lead singer for anyone who might be quite old talking about this, but it's like you've got to write about what you know about, and I think that is like it in a nutshell. You can't really
Yeah.
like don't try and be who you're not. Like just go out there and like whatever works for you. As you said, you may be a writer, you may be an artist, you may be a poet, and it might not be that profound. You may be great at maths, and that's amazing too. I think it's just I've seen people who've joined in with this movement and do something for nothing, whether it's yoga teachers going into rehabilitation centers, whether it's
Mhm.
people going to have lunch with someone in an old people's home who doesn't have any family with them anymore. It's just about your time. And I think the thing here is whether you're an activist and an artist and you're going out in the middle of the night and you don't want anyone to know your name, and that's awesome. Or whether you're really present on social media and you're trying to promote these kinds of messages, I think what's happening here is we realize as humans that like what really gives us purpose in our life, I think, is when we're doing something that's hopefully beyond us. And I think
Mm.
that can be something insanely big and huge, and it can just be the person next to you. That's beyond you. It can just be someone who's just outside. That is out your comfort zone. Going to talk to someone who is way different than you or may seem very different from you from the outside, that's way out your comfort zone. Like shit, like some people that's so difficult, and it's not easy sometimes. But to be able to sort of like kick those parameters of kind of who you might usually talk to and like educate yourself about other people, I think it's that's huge for me, and that's what I strive to like do most of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and even if you're not necessarily serving others at that point, you are becoming a better version of yourself, which in turn will is serving the world in the best way possible. So, I think there's no deed is too small. And if that means just like you said, introducing yourself to someone who you normally wouldn't talk to, reading stories that you wouldn't usually read, whatever it is, it's like those are just as valuable too.
Yes.
Kind of just like, the small moments. It all counts as long as it's towards the greater good.
Yeah.
And I kind of love how this idea of doing what you can and using your resources however you feel fit. And like for you, not only, so there's two sides to this, right? You're providing people with a haircut and giving them this, new image and this kind of confidence back and making them feel human again, but also you're sharing it on social media and you are humanizing them to a world that sees them as kind of like almost like zombies. It's like there's such a stigma with homelessness and that people are scary and that they're all drug addicts, which granted a lot of times drugs are involved, but you can't generalize that. And I think that's the biggest thing is like you don't know people's stories, and it's so easy to judge a book by its cover, especially when the cover is looks such a certain way, right? But you
Yeah.
really just have no idea who someone is and what their story is and how they speak and who their family is, and you just don't know. So I just love the part of your project that is sharing these stories and just really humanizing these people who deserve to be seen as humans. They're just going through a rough period of time in their life. And I just transitional period. Yeah. I just hear so often people being like, well, they put themselves there. If they wanted to get a job, they could get one, like there's no reason for them to be there. They could walk to McDonald's. And it's like, it's not that simple. Like we said in earlier, it's just not that simple.
Mhm.
Not to
Yeah.
mention a lot of homeless people, if they've been homeless for a while, they don't have identification. They
Mhm.
don't have, their social security card. They don't
Right.
have access to a lot of the things that would require them to get a job. And, getting a job costs money. Like, either whether it be bus fare or whether it be sometimes you have to buy your own uniforms. You have to be presentable at work. You have to shower. You know what I'm saying? So it's
You need a
like,
haircut.
you can't just be like, oh yeah, go get a fucking job. Like, this does not work like that.
Yeah, and there's you raise some really interesting points here, and I feel like it's so true what you're saying. Like, so firstly, I'd say yes, it's so much more complicated than you think to be able to get from literally living in the gutter and being like street homeless, like actually on the street, um, to some form of housing, like the administrative tick boxes that you have to sort of like, and like hoops you have to jump through to get there. It ain't easy. It is not
Yeah.
easy. It's full of automated services, very undignified, very kind of just making you feel shitty, going up and trying to beg for a little bit of breathing room on deadlines and stuff. Anyway, I think that jobs is a really big part and help of what people are misunderstood with, in the sense that what help looks like sometimes too. You visit some of these hospitals or Section 8 housing units or whatever it is in America and at different places, and it's like, I mean, would you put someone in your family in one of these places? I'd like to ask someone when they visit there, would you have someone live there and feel happy doing so? Because sometimes it's 10 people, 10 rooms are sharing the same bathroom, and
Right.
it's shitty. Like, it's a shitty situation. The place is falling apart. It's damp. Anyway, my point is, like, yeah, you're right. That is such a good. It's a really interesting way, I think, that I want to try and think of more ways I can try and highlight that, because I think, again, stories are really good to do that, but also I think there probably needs to be a bit more like documentary visuals on like what help looks like. But
Right.
the other thing I'll say is, it's funny, isn't it? Because uh, we all have a story of redemption, right? So when someone's gone from rags to riches, we will put that person on a pedestal. We'll write a Hollywood film about them. Oh, it's they'll hang out with A-listers, and they'll be their new trophy friend who was like, look, here's my poor friend who made it from the shittiest neighborhood in South Central, and now he's a class A, whatever. He's doing this thing or wherever they're from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's amazing that when we look at this, when somebody's past the challenges and the heartache and the struggles of their whole life, and they end up climbing their way to the top, we fucking celebrate them, and I think rightly so. But isn't it amazing that we love them at that moment? We love them at the end of this rainbow. But it's like I say, rainbow's the wrong analogy. I say, at the end of this struggle. But it's like, I look at people on the street and I'm like, within every person there is your story of redemption, but you just decided to just recognize their timeline right at the end here. That's when you decided to give a shit. But right now,
Right.
thick of it, and I
Right.
think we often we often do a little bit too much idolizing of when people come out the other end of it. And I think the drugs and all this stuff and this kind of bubble of the reality is part of the problem too, because a lot of people do say, as you said, coming back to that point, like, oh yeah, but he's a druggie. I'm like, yeah, so what? So what? I mean, really, that's honestly how I look at it. I
So
don't
is
even,
half of Hollywood. Yet, we praise them for singing about it. Yet the
yeah,
people who have the addictions, we shit on them.
yeah, in it, like you literally. I mean, we live in countries, and especially America. You're right. I mean, everyone's medicated. Everyone's on. I've met girls, boys, and old and young, and anybody and anyone who you wouldn't expect. Who I'm just like, and they're like, oh yeah, it's time to take this drug that I've been prescribed for this thing, and now this one for this thing, and it's getting the same here in lots of ways. And the way I think it really, really takes us as humans to come to this kind of place where I think we need a much deeper understanding of depression and the really hardcore emotions that keep people where they are, not just through, as I said, like the economical side of it, but through the psychological side of it. And when I see someone who's a drug addict, I mean, it phases me zero. I'm like, yeah, and what? That's the jacket.
And why? And yeah, and wouldn't that be a reason to care a little more, like, and have a little more sympathy and empathy for someone?
That's not
Like,
gonna be where I stop. Yeah, that's not where I'm going to be stopped. Where I stop listening. Like that's
yeah.
not like. Just for me, it's like I don't understand what you mean by that. I do because what's happened there again and again. Another something I just jotted down then when you were talking, because I think it's really you were going over some really interesting stuff. Is just people wash their hands of people, and I know why quite quickly, because if look, we have to find a reason why we don't have to care about someone. Otherwise life gets weirder and I'm not saying more difficult, but if you allow this empathy to creep into your life for that person and somehow you see past all the layers of who they are on the outside to recognize yourself in them in some way and think that you could end up there or think that they are a human being, then it's a way different path.
It's harder to live.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you, how easy is it? It's so easy just to go like, yeah, that's their fault. It's like, oh, and now you just turn back to your wine and your cheese and get on with it.
That's such a great point.
Instead of looking at the socioeconomical, system that allowed them to get to that point.
Or feeling guilt for not helping, or feeling like you can relate to them, like you said, seeing yourself in them, and then you don't want to feel that way. That's a great point.
No, I do it too as
It's
well.
easier to not care.
Yeah, I do it too. Like I do it too. I'm no better than any, but like amongst like a lot of different experiences I've had and where I am right now in my life. Look, it's a daily thing to put one foot in front of the other and put your best foot forward and try and remain the best version of yourself and be empathetic towards other people. Like I'm busy and I'm not, and I catch myself doing these snap judgments. I'm the other way. When I see a bunch of suits walking through London who are like, and I have to check myself and go like, you're a real asshole for just completely, just by the fact someone's like looking really like well put together, driving like that BMW and like driving really fast. I'm like, I have to check myself to go like, what am I doing? I'm doing the same thing. I'm completely just slamming them without knowing anything about their life. I know nothing about their life, and I'm going like, asshole.
It's
Like,
kind of it's reprogramming of our brain, though. It's so natural for us to have that first instinct of kind of judgment, and then it's doing this type of self work and talking to people and understanding their stories and gaining empathy for other people and their lives and the stories that they've lived, to have that right after the judgment, to have that second of reevaluation and being like, oh wait, calling yourself out, holding yourself accountable.
Of course, and spending your time in a different way is difficult. Look, we're all like, fuck, life's so. I understand the hedonism of life. I know it well. Like, I understand how it's easy to go like, if I'm successful, I'm gonna surround myself with nice things that taste nice and look nice and smell nice and make myself feel good, because you're like, that's what world we live in. A lot of this is environment too. We're not offered like, things don't pop up on our screen like, hey, you have to dig, like to say like, oh, there's this meetup where a bunch of strangers meet up and talk about their feelings, and that seems really cool. Like usually it has to happen. You know what I mean? It's like you don't get advertised on Facebook, do you? It's just part of like, you got to search for these you got to search for commune in your life and community. And I think that whatever level you're at in your life, I think I just always advocate that it is a incredibly important part of being here on earth to try and get out of your comfort zone with other people around you, and try and learn about people and remain inquisitive and remain kind of grounded. I think it keeps me grounded in a big way, like
Absolutely.
and that's going to look very different for everyone and their mission. This is just sort of my version of that, and it's ever changing. And I've realized longer form stuff is much more important as well. As you know, I'm glad that you found me through TikTok, because that's probably the shortest way, where it's an amazing way to be like, hey, I'm here and here's what I'm doing, but then it
Right.
leads to this. It's great, which is an actual conversation and an actual kind of sharing in some way, and whether that's in writing or a podcast and how we're doing now. I think it's amazing that we can do more of this stuff, because I think this is where people hopefully have some take homes more than just like that's a nice 10 seconds.
Absolutely.
And on our call, you had mentioned that you were kind of in the beginning stages of conceptualizing or writing a book.
Yeah.
So what is kind of your obviously we want to kind of promote that and encourage people whenever that happens to come out to read that and support you in that way. But what is that going to kind of be about?
So actually, it is. It's actually, I've done most of the work for it now, so it is going to be a book, and it's this a collection of people I've met over the last 2 years or so who are important to me, who I met on the street, and I most of the time cut their hair. A couple of people I didn't, but all the time I have my hairdressing things in my bag and also my camera. So it's a photography book heavily, but also a lot of words that accompany it, and it's to try and again further just have a look beneath this really stigmatized word homelessness and meet some of the humans behind it, and rehumanize us. I think because even though a lot of the time we talk about humanizing people who is the person in the difficult situation, the truth is it's all the people outside looking at them any different, without knowing more about their life, that need rehumanizing, in my opinion. So the book is a collection of stories of different people, like kind of why I do what I do, and about do something for nothing, and that's going to come out next year. So it's a little while away, but it's really exciting because 10 months down the line, it's going to be a great way to, and hopefully get this into the people who aren't on Instagram, aren't on TikTok, which is a vast majority of people who are in quite powerful positions, who, a book gets left on like a coffee table by their son or daughter or whatever, and, they might have a chance of picking it up. And it's just another medium, isn't it? But it's nice. It's nice to me as a process. It's been really nice for me to have been able to go in deeper with people's stories and try and explore some of the themes that take place in all of our lives as part of the book as well.
Love.
That's beautiful. When can we pre-order?
Yeah,
Take
right.
the money.
Yeah, I'll be
Sign us up.
telling you guys as soon as. Yeah, I need your help.
Awesome.
So good. Wow, what
Did
an
you have any
amazing
more-
conversation.
Did you have any more questions, Liv?
I mean, I have one question. I wanted to ask it in the very beginning, and we can keep it pretty simple before we go into our little question round. But how did you have the initial idea to offer to cut someone's hair on the street? Were you just walking the street one day? Like, how did that idea come about?
Yeah, so actually, the first time I went and cut someone's hair on the street, that very first time, it wasn't planned. I had my backpack on me, and I was on the way to someone's hair to earn a bit of extra cash outside of work. So I'd go to like a friend's house in the evening, cut her hair and her daughter's hair, and I didn't end up making it. I had to text her and say like, "Hey, I'm not coming over," because I met somebody who I'd seen a few times before, and it was helpful that I'd already built some rapport with this person, and like seen him and said hello and bought him a coffee a few times, and actually it was just in that moment I remembered I had my things in my backpack, and I said, "Oh, actually, do you want a haircut?" Like, I know it's weird, and I just sort of made a joke out of it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'd love one." It was like not something I was thinking about, but yeah, that would be great. And it was an amazing first person to meet and have this experience with, because he was super charismatic and very very easy to be around. And he then introduced me to a few people who knew, like the next weekend when I went out with my things again. So this guy Derek, his name was, and he was kind of my introduction to like what I'm doing now,
Cool.
And so it was weird, but then unconscious kind of level, I think I was definitely at a place in my life where I was like wanting some kind of something else, because
Yeah.
I was I was transitioning from one stage to the next, and I feel thankful for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so kind of, I
crazy,
love how it
the
kind of just
universe,
happened by
like,
accident.
yeah, I mean, the universe essentially, put him in your path, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
And
sure. Yeah, exactly.
Very
And
cool.
sometimes, yeah, it's like I said, sometimes, when you follow that, it can lead you to some interesting places,
that's amazing.
Very, very
Yeah.
cool. Okay, cool. We are going to Jess, anything else? You're good?
I'm good. I feel like
Okay, cool.
I love this conversation.
That's so
I'm happy
good.
to meet you guys. Yeah, really, it's been really nice to chat to you,
So,
because I think
so good.
we've gone over some interesting stuff. And to be honest, as I said, I hopefully it comes across in the messaging that it's like, this is really complex, but essentially this is really just about humans and trying to be there for each other more. And yeah, you brought up some really interesting stuff that I think is important for us to put out there. So I'm happy. Thank you.
Yay, beautiful. Okay, before we let you go, we have 3 questions that we ask every guest.
Okay.
They can be as short or as long as you want, kind of whatever floats your boat.
All right.
But we will hop right into them. Okay, so the first question is, if you could have your dream job, what would it be?
If you're not already doing it.
Yeah, right? I'm like,
Okay. I think honestly, I'd probably, like music's the thing that makes me feel so incredibly insanely connected to like the world in another way that isn't anything to do with people. So I think that, like I used to play music, and it would be along with what I'm doing now. I think I need to play some music in my life again. Yeah.
cool. Do it.
Beautiful. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is what is the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten and
Oh.
or would give?
Do you know what the first thing that came to my head, which is always a really good answer, is my friend Hal, who I've worked on a lot of documentary stuff with. He taught me, I guess it wasn't advice as such, but I'm still going to answer this question with this, which is one time I finished a talk, right, about all the stuff I've been talking to you about do something for nothing. And I said, how was it? Did I do okay? Was it all right? And he was like, yeah, you were good. And he said, actually, you were too good. And it took me about a few minutes to like work out what he meant by that. And then it all clicked. I realized that I was on this autopilot thing of being this person that I thought people needed that day rather than being me. And I was like someone's feel good operator, like, here, I'm this guy who's doing this thing. And it's just, I stayed with me since that day, where I was like, yeah, no matter what the situation, I always try and be me. And I might not always be smiling. And I think for a long time that like, I thought I needed to be always on the outside, this person who is fitting in the room. And I think from that day I was like, oh yeah, like I never want to be, like, you got to be real, whatever the scenario. That's kind of what it translated to as me anyway. A very honest person, beautiful way of describing it. It was like, yeah, it was really good. It was too good. I was like, okay, I get you.
I mean,
That's
no, I think
great
I think that's
advice.
incredibly powerful because I think it's so true. And I can definitely relate to like having been on autopilot and feeling like I needed to be this version of myself. But I think, and I feel like this, complements our conversation so well because it's like just rehumanizing. Like humans aren't perfect, we aren't perfect, and it's important to, show people that so that they feel, empowered with their imperfections and their flaws.
Yeah, of course. And we all know what it's like to follow someone on social media, or kind of see like a certain version of their life. And then when they actually bring out some words of like, actually, you know what? I've got to tell you something, like, I'm not okay for this reason, this reason, this reason. You're suddenly so much more connected to them. And I think that in life in general is like, we that is a brilliant road to follow, I think, for the future of just, and it's, I think it's achievable too. It's not that hard to just be like, actually just get real with yourself. Like, you don't have to be okay. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, but there's someone I watch a lot of his lectures online. I've listened to a few podcasts, but his name's Gabor Mate, and he's a Hungarian-born Canadian physician, I believe, and he's someone who he spoke about trying to hide your inner feelings and trauma, and he talks a lot about kind of like trying to hide your pain and how that obviously just putting a lid on it just makes it grow. And he was talking about this one time with his mum where he had a bad leg, but because she was sick, he was limping before he went into the room, but then when he entered the room, he immediately stopped his he was pretended he was okay, like he wasn't
Mhm.
limping anymore. And he did it without even thinking, and it was to protect his mum from seeing him as he was, as he really was. And then afterwards, he just spoke about. It was really funny. I've forgotten the way he words it, but he says like, she survived like post. Like it was like basically she went through like Nazi Germany in like the 40s, and like they had to like escape and shit like that, and she can't handle me having a dodgy leg as I walk into a room, And
Right.
it's like we do this all the time. We try and like you put a face on it. It's like people can handle shit better than you think. Like
Mhm.
we don't have to always be pleasant. We don't have to always have these kind of like. And I think, yeah, maybe I should stop talking because I could just.
No,
You
no,
can go
no, please.
on. I know that's
I,
why.
and I love this because I feel so validated, and I think that is true. And I feel like, there's a lot of trauma, and there's things that lead up to us feeling like we can't be our true selves. And, there's something to be said for that. And, I think it's normal to feel that way, but I think that we should be normalizing people, being true with, others. And I feel like a lot of the times, even specifically in relationships, or maybe that's just what I can relate to, is that like we hold a lot back because we don't want to be a burden on, whoever it is. It could be our mother, it could be our best friend, it could be, our significant other. And I feel like by holding that back, we are not only doing ourselves a disservice, but we're doing them a disservice as well, because
Mhm.
no one's perfect, and it's just important to normalize that.
Exactly, because reverse it, right? Imagine you had a friend or family member, or even someone who's a stranger, like who you could read and you could see the thoughts from their mind floating out of like they have something that they not should be saying, but you'd want them to say it, right? You'd be like, just so you
Right.
know, I'm here. I want to listen. I want to like whatever. Like
Mhm.
you don't need to be right. You don't need to protect someone from yourself, and that's eaten me up before. Like again, another story for another time. But I've learned the hard way with that sometimes, and like it's not pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love that advice. That's great. I mean, this podcast, we preach is just being your authentic self, living your truth, speaking your truth, and especially like again, we'll try not to go into much of a tangent on this, even though we have already. We being influencers and even having this podcast, there is a lot of times where we feel like we have to be these people, and it's like it really is doing a disservice not only to our audience but to ourselves, because it's a waste of energy to be anything else other than our authentic self. So I think
Yeah,
that is great advice for our
and I think it's
listeners.
amazing what you guys are doing with that messaging too, with anything you're doing, because that is huge for so many people. Because that's what people really want. Like they really do want that, and I see it all the time. And we live in a world where it's very difficult sometimes because everyone's always being paid, and that's a big part of it. And I think that's why it's important to do things in a nutshell. Because I didn't really mention it in the podcast. I know we're finishing up, but to do things when you're not paid is really important. And the reason for that is you get to have a interaction, conversation, whatever it is, where there's the only focus is, or the only trade is time. That's your commodity. So
Mm-hmm.
you're trading time. There's no other transaction, and I think that breeds and promotes a
Authenticity.
healthier experience. Sometimes, of course, we need to get paid. I need to get paid for shit too, but
Yeah.
it's like
Love that.
Absolutely.
Okay, third and final question is, if you had an autobiography, what would be titled and why?
Okay. I would say it would be called. Well, if it was an autobiography, I can't steal someone else's thing. I'm really good at other people's quotes, you see. I don't know, man. Like, I don't
It's a
know.
hard
Shit.
question.
That's a hard one. Like,
I know.
that is really hard. Because the thing is, I'm really good. Again, this comes down to a part of me, which is like, don't make me talk about me. Like, I know how to speak about
I know. You're very humble, but it's okay also to give yourself
yeah.
some kudos too.
In it. I know if it was about me, I have to. Can I? Yeah, I'll pre-record it, and you can add it to this message. But yeah, maybe it would be. I don't know, man. Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
I feel
Think
like
about
it
it.
would almost be like do something for nothing,
Well, that's
Yeah,
already
right?
happening. That's coming out. That's already. I get.
Exactly.
So the book. That's what it's going to be called, and that's kind of look. That is part of that. Is maybe that's the obvious answer. You're right, because as soon as I feel like it's self promotion with Joshua, I'm like But I think I think that is it. I'm entwined in this as much as anything. So that is my autobiography. It is do something for nothing. It is my
There you go.
mantra and preach. So yeah, you got me there. But it just meant I had to just admit that I'm part of it for a second.
This is you. This is your legacy.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that's what we're here for. We are here to gas you up and give you kudos and give you some credit, give you a pat on your back, because you're
Even
doing
when you won't do it yourself.
Yeah, you're doing amazing work, and it's really, really inspiring.
Thank you, guys. It's been really good to chat. And as I said, like, it's been nice because I've been locked in this kind of like writing zone of doing the book for the last few months, and like, bar my girlfriend, who I've driven absolutely crazy. I love her, and like some dear friends who I've been able to see, apart from like as things have lifted slowly, lockdown in London. It's just really nice to like have this kind of conversation, and I appreciate it.
No, it's been an honor to have you on. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Nice one.
And if people wanted to find you, follow you, where can they follow you at?
Okay, so yeah, on TikTok, it's do something for nothing, and on Instagram, it's at Joshua Coombes, which is that's the best places. And do something for nothing on Instagram too. But Joshua Coombes, my surname is spelled Coombes. That's the way that I post most people's stories on there. But do something for nothing is a cool page to follow as well. Also, just actually quickly. Light and Noise, which is an art show. So Light and Noise is an art show me and my friend Jamie created to amplify the voices of a lot of the people I've been talking about too.
Beautiful. And we will make sure to leave all those links in the description for you guys, as always. This was such a beautiful conversation and really just heartwarming. We're living in a really crazy time, and I think having these conversations and showing everyone we're all human and we all want the same things, it's really important.
It. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, if you guys love this episode, please post a screenshot of it, leave a review for us. We hope you guys have an amazing week, and we will see you next week.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Bye.